How are you feeling? Yeah, you. From the vaccines to lockdowns, this isn't easy for any of us. Well, Darrell is the global CEO for Ipsos Public Affairs, and he and his team have been asking Canadians how they are faring amid one of the most challenging times we've ever lived through. Thanks so much for joining us today, Darrell.
No, thanks for having me on.
What has Ipsos found when it comes to how Canadians are feeling about the way the government has handled the pandemic?
Well, so far, when you take a look at approval numbers for the government, they tend to be pretty good. And that's, by the way, when I say government, I should be saying governments. So whether it's the municipal government, provincial government where people are living, or the national government, the results are generally pretty good. But as we get into dealing with this vaccine issue and the rollout of the vaccine, there's some challenges that we're starting to see in terms of government approval.
Recent reports show that COVID-19 is a top concern for many Canadians. Can you explain how the pandemic is influencing public trust in the governments?
Well, people are really looking at government and anything in terms of public policy right now in a unidimensional way. There really is only one issue, and that's dealing with this pandemic. And increasingly, dealing with this pandemic means dealing with the vaccine issue, and that's how the public's really starting to evaluate the performance of governments.
Mental health is another cost of the pandemic that we have seen. One of the Ipsos recent polls took a closer look at this. What are Canadians reporting about their mental health?
We're struggling. About half of us say that we're really struggling with our mental health right now. 19% of us, and this is 19% of us admitting it on a survey being run by strangers, saying that they're struggling with addiction. It really is this question of loneliness, being locked in our houses, and who's particularly suffering as we go through this are younger people.
Wow. Something that we need to be mindful of. I thought another interesting scope to one of your studies was the anger level of Canadians as well, finding that men tend to be a little bit more angry about the situation and the pandemic than women are. Can you delve into that a little bit more?
Yeah, 71% of Canadians say that they're angry that Canada has fallen behind the UK and the US in terms of rolling out its vaccine. So we're behind schedule. Men more than women, but just about every question that we ask, men tend to be more taking risks, more upset with being locked up, in general, struggling as they move their way through the pandemic. And we hear an awful lot of discussion right now about women at home with children in particular, families at home with children, and women especially struggling economically and also trying to balance all of this off. But the people who seem to be the angriest about what's going on right now tend to be men.
Wow. If you were to give our government kind of a mark, a grade, based on what you've seen across the scope with all of the different surveys that you've done, what grade would you give it?
Well, I think Canadians have given the government a grade. And if we evaluate all the survey research that we've done, I'd say that to this point, they're saying somewhere between a B and a solid B plus. But as we move into the vaccine issue and as people's expectations begin to rise about the possibility of being able to get out of these lockdown situations because they become inoculated against the coronavirus. If that's not met effectively, then you'll start to see the grades decline.
All right, Darrell of Ipsos Public Affairs, thank you so much for your time today.